Well, we were just covering some of the some of the predictable. I mean, it's becoming a kind of predictable segment on our show. Zoran did a thing. Zionists freaked out. We report
Right.
on it. That's what
Right.
we
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He revoked those executive orders, and
Yeah.
so I was like, this is a good opportunity to really tell our listeners about what the IHRA definition of working definition of anti-Semitism actually is, and why people are acting like it's a big deal that he revoked it. The idea that it is this definition of anti-Semitism that's always been there is just not the case. And so I was like, this is an opportunity. This is a perfect thing for our podcast to discuss. Somehow that was us glazing. I was like, we're not glazing. I did no glaze. I have glaze.
The closest you got to glazing was when we read out the rest of the things he revoked. And it included, like, he unbanned carriage horses at Central Park. And you're like, that's probably a good thing. The horses probably like it. And Chris and I were like, actually, there's a massive, like, animal rights ethical conundrum in New York City on the treatment.
I spent the whole time going, nah, the horses love it.
So
that was a joke.
Wait. Okay, so this is fascinating to me because I feel the kind of opposite. Well, okay, I feel a push and pull, frankly, from my own audience when it comes to being critical of people like Zoran. Generally speaking, my audience is like extremely skeptical of any elected Democrat, anyone who's running as a Democrat.
Same.
I would argue maybe like more so. I'm pleasantly surprised. I never know how much that's my audience versus that's like the tone of the left more broadly. Because obviously there are programs like Crystal's, which are a lot more, or like Ryan, others who are a lot more open or even excited about the prospect of
electoralism in
right?
general. Yeah, I think it's,
and that's like I would say that I would expect that's kind of the normal position among most of left media.
Yeah, I mean, if there is left media, yes. The normal position being people liking
looking for realistic, pragmatic openings, even if they
right.
But here's the thing, like, I don't think we've cultivated a traditional left media audience. People are tuning in so that we rip things apart, take the piss, and
we don't
expose,
necessarily,
and we don't believe anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think whenever we express any earnestness or optimism, or even let down our cynical guard even for a second, they might take that as. But I don't know. I think people tune into podcasts for a lot of different things, and I think it's also just the case that we've been doing it now for 2 years, and the parasocial imperative where you feel bonded with the people who you're having this one-way relationship with through your earphones. You start to imagine, for all the times that they've said things that make you feel seen and heard, and I'm speaking now as a longtime podcast listener. I was a listener of yours, Brianna, long before I ever had a podcast of my own. Like, you feel this intimate resonance, and then when something happens and you change or they change or someone says something and that resonance is broken, like it brings up a childhood wound or something. Like, the attachment relationship has been breached.
Okay, Dr. Mate.
Yeah,
I know, but he speaks facts, I believe.
No, I think that sounds right. I also wonder if because Bad Hasbara is so Gaza focused, and Gaza, I think, really was the litmus test for a lot of people's sort of moral red lines, that it attracts more people who are unwilling to accept, imperfect democratic vessels, because it was that imperfect democratic vessel that enabled the genocide for the first
100%.
It was a genocidal. It was a genocidal imperfection.
Yeah. But I mean, and to be honest, like, I would say that I always focus on if I see one piggy oinking too loudly. That's like I as opposed to the rest of them who are just like quietly enjoying the slop, and so I feel more.
We have sort of a good farmer, bad farmer thing going on here.
Yeah.
Who's the good? Wait, first of all, farmer not cop. Is this a thing that I just don't know about?
Well, yeah, Matt calls them hogs and tells them to shut up and enjoy their slop.
Right. Well, I feel the need to remind anyone who listens to any podcast that everything they're listening to is content that they are consuming, and that is not praxis, and that it is just like, so don't take it too seriously. You're just enjoying slop. We're not changing the world, right? And so,
well, Matt, I know it, but you guys do it on your show.
Yeah, that's okay. But I'm saying our show, we don't change the world. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I focus on when someone is just like, I think you guys are glazing door onto my. I'm just like, shut up. I hate politics.
For the video, is the fact that I've got a messy bed behind me, is it going to be cropped? Am I okay?
I mean, I think we'll see it. We'll see the messy bed.
All right, let me just deal with that.
One time I did TMZ during COVID times, and they insisted that my background was not going to be visible. And I had a really wide shot in my studio apartment during COVID time where you could basically see everything. And it is humiliating. Not only can you see everything, a messy bed would have been the least of my problems.
What
it was just
okay?
piles
Of what?
Dirty clothes.
Oh, okay.
Tchotchkes, paper, bills, food remnants, pizza boxes. Like you know that classic COVID era New Yorker cartoon that is a woman on a Zoom camera. Yeah, like I make her look like a productive member of society. I needed hoarders called on me for an intervention immediately. Yeah, and it was just there for Harvey Levin to project
to show the world. It's funny. It's like that's like a meta TMZ thing to do, where not only they're interviewing you about something, but they're also exposing you as a slob.
Talk about messy.
That's crazy.
Sorry, I had the Spinal Tap album "Smell the Glove" up there, which is a very comically demeaning picture of a woman chained up, and I didn't want people to have to parse that.
Let them parse. At this point,
let them parse.
Let them parse,
Daniel.
Get their snouts deep in there and figure it out.
Spinal Tap was it was a clue on the last Thursday New York Times crossword puzzle, which I usually don't do Thursdays because they have tricks. You know, it's like are you puzzlers? Are we boycotting the New York Times?
No, I like crossword puzzles.
I was a mini crossword guy for a while until they made it behind a paywall.
So yeah, those are all real. I know I shouldn't subscribe, but for like journalism reasons, like I know I can get in the back door using archive.is or whatever, but I have to look at the time stuff so frequently that I have so far maintained my subscription. I don't recommend other people who aren't in the biz do the same, but I also do get the games. Yeah. And
what was the Spinal Tap one?
The Thursdays pissed me off because so basically a rhombus, you have to put multiple letters sometimes in one box, and the answer was Spinal Tap. I forget what the question was, what the clue was, but it was, movie about band. I don't know. But they wanted you, the trick of the puzzle was that various keyboard keys like tab were the missing letters of the clues in both the vertical and horizontal direction. So it would be like the clue would have the word escape in there, ESC in there somewhere, but you would be like, why isn't Spinal Tap fitting in the box? And it was because you're supposed to like X out one of the keys from the keyboard. Wow. And I hate that, right? Because it's hard enough for me to figure out what the heck you're talking about, what the clue is, and then you're tricking me on another level. I hate Thursdays. I will say I did do a very good job with this Thursday's puzzle, so I might be evolving.
Well done.
That's good.
Thank you. All right.
Just one of the many times the New York Times has deceived you.
It's the least of their Hasbara, if you will.
Yeah. Yes.
I am very excited to finally be joined on Bad Faith Podcast by the team from Bad Hasbara Podcast. You know them, you love them. They have been debunking the Hasbara, the mythology, the lies coming out of Israel for the last 2 years. It's Matt Lieb. It's Daniel Mate. Welcome to Bad Faith.
Hi. Hey. How's it going?
I had such a good time. Both at your guys' live show and recording with you just a few months back. Yeah. You both pointed out that we are a part of the bad podcast community.
Mm-hmm. Family. That's right. It's
and
us.
I do feel like it's like family.
It is. I mean,
we got to stay tight. We got to keep it close and
there's also
each other.
there's Bad Friends. At some point, we got to get what is his name? Andrew Santino to come on one of the pods, or I think Bobby Lee is the other one. I don't know. We
had a YouTuber named Bad Empanada at one point.
That's right. He came on one time. That's another bad. A lot of people start their content, their podcasts off with bad, or YouTube channels off with bad. I think it's,
I said it before. I was lobbying for good faith. I fully acknowledge that is not as cool a name, and that I was wrong in that regard. But I did try. I was,
a Michael Jackson album that just says good.
I fully acknowledge that I was not the edgy one of the pair that was coming up with these decisions, and I admit that I was not the marketing genius in the group. That being said, I think this is a kind of appropriate time for you to be coming on, because in the wake of the last few crazy news days of Donald Trump's coup, abduction, kidnapping of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, part of the subtext to this has been not just asking questions about why Donald Trump was motivated to do this at this time. He's explicitly saying it's for oil. Other people are saying it's a distraction. And one of the things that they're arguing it is that it's a distraction from talking about what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank. So I do think there is some utility in having you guys on to correct for that, to the extent that that's part of the benefit to this administration and to U.S. imperialism generally, to be taking our eyes off the ball of what's been going on in Israel. I mean, what's your guys' take on the last week or so?
Well, look, I would hope there's some utility in having us on, because utilitarian grounds are the only way to justify having these two idiots on your show. I mean, it better be useful, because it's sure as hell not going to be entertaining or insightful. We did talk about Venezuela on this week's show. We kind of had to, and I mean, it's a new staging ground for a new level of U.S. imperialist brashness, and also the same contradictions that we've been chronicling within the Republican Party and the U.S. right, the two-facedness of it, right there on display with Donald Trump and Marco Rubio standing next to each other, and Rubio saying we gave him every chance to negotiate, and Donald Trump saying he wanted to negotiate. I didn't let him negotiate. We're not going to negotiate with him. This sort of the curtain. There is no man behind the curtain. The curtain is drawn. Everyone's naked. Everyone's having an orgy of immorality. And of course, Israel chiming in to congratulate Donald Trump on his successful doctrinal adventure. So yeah, there's definitely a tie-in. Matt, what did you feel was important in us talking about Venezuela on a show where we never talk about anything other than Israel-Palestine?
I mean, I agree with what you said. I do think that it is really fascinating to watch the anti-war, quote unquote, populist right, the America Firsters struggle with trying to carry the same analysis that they kind of pretended to have with Gaza and with Israel and Palestine, and try to carry that over to Venezuela, because they couldn't do it.
I say this all the time. I'm not anti-war, and I wouldn't even call myself a non-interventionist. I'm a realist. I think that the United States has this awesome wealth and awesome power, and there's nothing wrong with that inherently, to use that power to secure the interests of America. And historically, what has always been the strategic interest of America is to control the Western Hemisphere. Maybe Iran is not a threat because they're literally on the other side of the world, but Venezuela is close to home. Cuba is close to home.
And Maduro has 5,000 Russian missiles he's going to use. He's allied with China. He's running his mouth. He's the piggy bank for the Democrats. You want to cut the Democrats off. This is bigger than the USA. You cut that off. Exactly. You're saying if you were president, you're looking at this, you see why Trump's doing it.
Yes, there is a vital strategic interest for Americans in controlling South Central America and the Caribbean. You go to Iraq to make a democracy. You go to Afghanistan to make sure women can vote. This is about making sure that in South America, we have across the board, by the way, it's not even just in Venezuela, it's across the whole board. All these governments that are doing trade with China, they're doing trade with China, and that's the basis of a future strategic relationship.
We're being encircled, just like the Russians struck back. It's literally under rule of law, war doctrine. This is what you're supposed to, this is default stuff.
Exactly. This is your vital American strategic interest. This is, people say, isn't the purpose of the military to protect America? This is protecting America. These are the Americas. These are strategic interests. And I would say, moreover, that the Western Hemisphere is uncontestable American territory. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with us meddling, actually. And maybe we might disagree on that, but I support meddling.
They couldn't match it because at the end of the day, I think their worldview of America first isn't isolationism. It is the same type of, I don't know, like imperial, what's the word? It's like it's the same type of worldview that all right-wing imperialists have. They just pretend that it is something else in this one particular case. Some of it because they hate Jews, but some of it, I think, just because they see the war in the Middle East that we've had, in Iraq and whatnot. And they looked at it as the mistake that it was and said, well, if we're going to be this, disgusting imperial power, doing it in our own hemisphere is the good way of doing it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And so I don't know. I think it's funny to watch people like Nick Fuentes squirm when it comes to this issue and go like, I guess it is based because it's good to take the oil, when he's been, pushing himself as this voice for Palestinian freedom in some aspects. I mean, for the most part, he has been, just being an anti-Israel podcaster, streamer, whatever the hell he does. But people have been tricked, especially like people on the left. I've seen some people be like, well, Candace Owens actually makes some pretty good points about Israel and whatnot. And that may be true, but then see if this carries over to literally anything else. And Venezuela, I think, is a perfect example. If you are against imperialism, then why would you be pro Maduro being abducted?
What has Candace Owens said about Venezuela? I saw. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, Megyn Kelly, for instance. I saw an interview she did with my brother. She seemed pretty sharp, at least on the contours of the principle that says, this is not. That this makes absolutely no sense even on America First grounds.
I have seen what happens when you cheerlead unabashedly U.S. intervention in foreign countries, thinking it's for our good and for the international good, only to wind up with what we've called quagmire in places like Iraq, not to mention Libya. We're not great at going into these foreign countries, decapitating them at the leadership level, and then saying either we're going to steer the country to a better place or it's going to steer itself. Either one. They just, 9 times out of 10, they don't work out well. And what does it mean in terms of boots on the ground? Trump is saying, I'm actually fine with that in Venezuela. Well, whose boots? Because I have a 16-year-old boy, and I have a 12-year-old boy, and I have a 14-year-old girl. And a lot of my listeners have children, too, who are actually the ones who might have to fill the boots. So I think I speak for a lot of moms and dads, for that matter, when I say I'm staying in yellow territory until we know more. And I will not be joining the Fox News cheerleading brigade this time. I've been burned too many times.
Marjorie Taylor Greene put out a statement that seemed pretty cogent for her. I expect Tucker Carlson will hold the line.
So I don't actually know what Candace has said. Candace was used as an example. I think Nick Fuentes is the one in particular that actually has said that that says he, has basically co-signed it.
Right.
And I think that's fascinating.
I Googled it real quick. This is from the Jerusalem Post, so the framing is going to be what it is. It's titled Candace Owens / influencers claim Zionist plot behind Maduro capture.
Oh, good.
Quote from Candace: the CIA has staged another hostile takeover of a country at the behest of globalist psychopaths, wrote Owens. That is what's happening everywhere. Zionists cheer every regime change. So, I mean, it's consistent.
Consistent.
And it's not 100% inaccurate. It's not 100% accurate.
Not 100% inaccurate. It is, at the very least, it's a consistent worldview. I think what I'm enjoying is seeing the inconsistencies and seeing sort of the infighting. And I think infighting on the right has been a theme of the last year or so, especially when it comes to Israel. But now seeing it within the kind of America First cadre is fascinating.
And then the thing that I prefer to focus on, because I don't know, hedonistically, I just prefer screaming about liberal hypocrisy than I do about, Republican idiocy. It's just somehow that it's more my thing. We do it a lot on the show, and there's, on this topic, there's carryover, just like there's carryover from right-wing insanity from Gaza and Israel to this. Well, the way the Dems are just being like, these protocols were very unfollowed here. The invitation that you sent us to be part of this coup attempt, the font was all wrong.
I get too many texts from Partyful to follow all of them, so I missed it. I missed the Partyful text. Yeah. No, watching their reaction to it has been, I think, the most fun. I mean, there's nothing funnier than establishment Democrat reactions to the Trump administration, especially when it comes to like national security, quote unquote, because they essentially share the same worldview, but they have to, figure out a way to do it that sounds like they also have empathy, which is, this is the opposite of what Trump does. He doesn't care anymore. He just will say, we're going to take the oil. That's the world we live in now.
Well, speaking of, I don't know if you caught Tony Dokoupil. This is a good Hasbara Venezuela crossover.
Yes.
We all know our good friend Tony, who first burst on the national consciousness in a big way after his grilling of Ta-Nehisi Coates for having the temerity to have any compassion for Palestinians and their occupied state in his book, The Message.
The terrorist backpack interview.
Yeah, that's right.
They called him a terrorist backpack rapper.
100%. Let us not forget, and contrast that to the grace that he showed Pete Hegseth during his big time premiere interview as the new anchor over at CBS, where he was chosen 100% because of his own merit and the cream rising to the crop.
Absolutely.
And not because he was the only Zionist that Bari Weiss could find to put in that position. Have you guys seen any of this? I think
also more so it is literally because of the pushback that he gave Ta-Nehisi Coates. I guarantee
yes, he earned. You're right. He earned that position.
He earned it by being like, "Aren't you also a terrorist, though?" Like he earned his position.
100%. Let's speaking of glazing, which is how we open this episode. Let's look at a little bit of this clip.
When President Trump was asked exactly who would be running the country of Venezuela temporarily, he referred to the officials standing there behind him at the podium. And one of those officials joins us now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for joining us. I want to begin tonight with the soldiers and sailors involved in this. We're very happy. Thank you again. We are very happy to hear that there was no loss of American life in this mission. And I understand you're just back from Joint Base Andrews, where you met with some of the team members involved in all of this. How are they doing? And you were watching this unfold. What did you see?
I saw the best of America. I saw men and women dedicating their lives to defending our country and to accomplishing that mission. I just landed here at Joint Base Andrews, had a chance to meet a lot of them firsthand who were involved, walked through the TikTok of what can only be described as the most sophisticated, most complicated, most successful joint special operations raid of all time. I mean, nothing of this size scope when you actually unpack what was done kinetically and non-kinetically, that many people, that many moving parts, that consequential, and they got the job done. And despite any obstacles in front of them, it is incredible to be able to serve such courageous, brave, and skilled Americans. We do right by them, and President Trump did. He gave them a clear mission, and they finished it.
My favorite part of that is after Dokoupil finishes his completely more than ingratiating, I mean, talking about glazing, right? Introduction, and we're so happy that, of course, no American lives were lost, which is the only
real
relevant metric for assessing anything. You see Hegseth go, as he settles into he's sinking into the warm bath that now is CBS Evening News.
Yeah.
Like this is comfy. I get to relax. I get to talk to my friend, Tony Dokoupil, this moron who's just going to just feed me these softballs.
Yeah.
It's right. You can literally see him realize the moment it was going to be a softball interview.
Yeah, he relaxed visibly. It looked like he was getting a foot massage.
Yeah.
And it's interesting seeing it too, because you've got CBS putting out these like long posts on Twitter that are like, here are the rules we live by. Number 1, we love America. Number 2, you can't convince us not to love America. Number 3, I eat McDonald's hamburger. It's all Bari Weiss trying to ingratiate herself with sort of like the populist masses, but you can tell behind it is this like deep revulsion of the type of person that she's trying to attract now. I kind of love she's in a prison of her own making. That is kind of beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Matt, because we should play this as well. During his premiere, Tony sort of lays out the new rules and the approach that he's going to take to newsmaking, and makes this sort of what's her name? Oh God, why am I just blocking her name? She's the super Zionist. She used to be on the Hill with me. I'm just randomly blocking her name.
Emily.
Batya, sorry.
Okay.
No. Batya. He gives this like really Batya Ungar Sargon coded spiel about how the elites have dictated too much of the news that has come to you, but now the real working man's priorities are going to be articulated as funneled through Columbia
Batya
grads
from the
like
factory
myself.
floor, as I call her.
Exactly. Let's play that clip.
A lot has changed since the first person sat in this chair, but for me, the biggest difference is people do not trust us like they used to. And it's not just us, it's all of legacy media. And I get it. I get it because I've been hearing about it from just about everybody for more than 20 years as I've traveled America on this assignment or that. My mom's neighbors in West Virginia, my own neighbors in New York City, thousands and thousands of conversations in between. Sometimes people want to talk to me about our coverage of NAFTA or the Iraq War. Other times it's all about Hillary Clinton's emails or Russiagate. Or more recently, COVID lockdowns, Hunter Biden's laptop, or the president's fitness for office. The point is, on too many stories, the press has missed the story because we've taken into account the perspective of advocates and not the average American. Or we put too much weight in the analysis of academics or elites and not enough on you. And I know this because at certain points, I have been you. I have felt this way too. I felt like what I was seeing and hearing on the news didn't reflect what I was seeing and hearing in my own life, and that the most urgent questions simply weren't being asked. So here's my promise to you today and every time you see me in this chair. You come first, not advertisers, not politicians, not corporate interests. And yes, that does include the corporate owners of CBS. I report for you, which means I tell you what I know, when I know it, and how I know it. And when I get it wrong, I'll tell you that too. It also means I'm going to talk to everybody and hold everyone in public life to the very same standard. After all, I became a journalist to talk to people. I love talking to people about what works in this country, what doesn't, and not only what should change, but the good ideas that should never change. I think telling the truth is one of them. I'm Tony Dokoupil, the anchor of the CBS Evening News. Hold me to it.
Tony Dokoupil says, you come first, I'll hold you to it. I heard that before. What do you gentlemen make of this pitch?
I mean,
that's some first date, second date shit.
Yeah, that's right. I'll get you next time. But yeah, I love that he started off with, I've been hearing this for 20 years. 20 years, people have been saying, I don't trust the media. I get emails. My neighbors tell me this. I'm like, they're talking to you. You have literally been in this position, as a journalist in public life for 20 years. I think he started in 2007 over at Newsweek, right? And then he moved on to CBS, and now he's the lead anchor. And so
for decades now, America's been saying, screw you, Dokoupil.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it because sometimes that's me. I'm in the mirror being like, You talentless fuck. You're a
idiot
fraud.
liar.
They're going to find you out. It's all going to come crumbling down.
Why did I get an adult circumcision?
Why does Bari Weiss make you cry?
People who don't know really need to understand.
Yeah.
I mean, like a quick glimpse at his personal life section on his Wikipedia. Dokoupil has 2 children with his first wife, who now live in Israel. Dokoupil married fellow broadcast journalist Katie Tor in 2017. They have 2 children. After the birth of a second child, he went through a vasectomy, but also, importantly, that wasn't his first surgery down there. He did an adult circumcision during his 2014 conversion to Judaism.
Sort of an outside-inside job.
Yeah, and the great the great part of it is he was already circumcised at birth, not because he was Jewish, but because people in the United States got circumcised. It was a big craze, and it's just so funny to get it again because you want to complete this conversion to Judaism. It is not required. He went to a reformed temple. Dude, he got his dick cut for fun.
Let me clue you in. When you're on the streets of Crown Heights and the Hasidim pull you aside and say, you Jewish, you want to do a mitzvah? And they invite you in like to shake the lulav and the etrog, for Sukkot or whatever.
Yeah.
Getting your foreskin cut off isn't like that. You only have to do it once. It's not, your mitzvah points don't accumulate. They don't roll over.
It's not like lighting Hanukkah candles. You don't have to cut it that many times. It's so strange.
I mean, it's also, we know this, by the way, because he wrote a piece in the New Republic called Why I Made the Cut for Judaism.
Yeah.
For reasons. I don't want to do psychoanalysis here. Maybe I'll leave that to you, Dr. Mate, as to why he felt the need to be so public about this. I think there was also a story about how Katie Tor paid for her own engagement ring, which I don't want to start male loneliness, gender wars crisis. I think it's fine. Men don't have to pay for everything in the grand scheme of the world. But it does feel like a weird thing to be publicizing about the dynamic of your relationship with your 2 successful broadcasters who I feel like make decent money.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, all of this is wiped out by the fact that it was a flawless, hitchless, hiccupless first broadcast. Have you guys seen any of the clips?
No, it went great.
And then the sort of like owning it video. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Yes, we have that one. Let's pull it up.
It's like a Simpsons Please Stand By Technical Difficulties ad.
Atmosphere. With Maduro now out, that base of power and influence could be out too. All right, to other news, as you just heard from Jill. Well, to other news now, to Governor Walz. No, we're going to do Mark Kelly. First day, big problems here. Are we going to Kelly here, or are we going to go to Jonah Kaplan? We're doing Mark Kelly, possibly demoted from his retired rank of captain in the Navy. Hegseth issued what's known as a letter of censure for the Arizona Democrat over his participation in a video that called on service members to defy illegal orders without specifying which orders he had in mind. Hegseth called what the former combat pilot and astronaut did an act of sedition. Now we go to Minnesota. A surprise announcement from the Great Lake State there today. Tim Walz, the 2024 Democratic vice presidential nominee.
I would have been in his headset like Tony. The line is, fuck it, we'll do it live.
That's right.
Illegal orders. What is that, illegal orders? I don't know what that means. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
There's a small part of me that has some compassion for this as someone who is that in the chair. But my God, like the amount of money and resources and manpower they have behind that versus our 2 like 25-year-old scriptwriters over at the Hill who managed to do a better job than this. Come on, this is his big debut. He compares himself to Walter Cronkite, and then you get 5 seconds of dead air as he watches pictures pan.
Yeah.
The heck said which segment are we doing now? And not even to mention the fact that he continues to frame this in the most Hegseth is right sort of way possible as he's queuing this up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
the slideshow package of Mark Kelly was even like a back massage for Hegseth. It was just like, look at this ugly troll. And listen, that is just what his face looks like.
I hate to say it, but production values are an elitist construct. And Vacha will tell you that. And your expectation that he should be able to fluidly, through channels of communication with his competent and professional coworkers in the control booth know what's coming next, or at least be able to gracefully transition and not have dead air. That just shows, okay,
Your
Harvard,
privilege.
fine. Is that what they taught you in your fancy little
In your
school?
ivory
Try telling that to
tower.
Main Street.
They taught you, you
They
gotta
love dead
read
air.
the words in the prompter.
Yeah,
Did you see the video that he put out afterwards, like in a green screen environment where he's talking to he's like, listen, guys, to the audience, like, that was a pretty rough first show, wasn't it? But in a way, that's what's great about the news. You haven't seen this?
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
Wait.
They put out like a little explainer, a little like debrief with the audience.
I might
Wait,
love
CBS actually
now.
put that out, or
Yeah, you gotta
he's like
find it. You gotta
in
find
his
it.
closet in his house in the room where Katie Hoare lets him.
It's a CBS tweet.
I did want to ask you, because I think, Matt, you brought up this interesting question of like what MAGA is doing right now and the divide and how Venezuela is exposing the limits of America first. I am all for the left sort of exploiting the interest in America first to exposing the cravenness of both establishment parties. I like the argument, But I do think we're now confronting the limit of that particular framing, because a lot of folks are saying, yeah, by American first, I didn't mean anti-interventionism. I just meant literally America first. If it's good for America, it's good, including doing American imperialism. And this is what Matt Walsh basically tweeted when people were adding him about his hypocrisy. He says, I totally support turning other countries in our hemisphere into subordinate vassals of the United States. That is the very definition of an American first foreign policy.
Yeah. See, it's really funny to watch this, because you realize Matt Walsh is different. He actually works for the Daily Wire, does he not? Is he not that guy, the Daily Wire guy?
I always get the Daily.
They're all very confusing. They're all the same.
It's the Daily Stromer.
Yeah. He works for Daily Sturmer, doesn't he? Der Sturmer.
He's the Daily Wire.
Yeah. So for him, I think he is always in this tough position of having to explain how he's still America first and super pro-Israel, and also, just someone who's cucked by Ben Shapiro. So him having this line about America first means doing intervention is not new for him. And so I think it's consistent with his sort of like, I don't know, his pushover attitude. He's not someone who really will rock the right-wing boat.
But let's also just be honest, like, it's not such a conceptual hop from America first to America number one.
Right. It's the same
America
number.
first to America on top of all you motherfuckers. You know, like, the sense of patriotic self-focus to nationalistic, jingoistic domination.
Right.
That's not a huge gulf to cross.
And for the ones who are actually had critiques of Israel, or still have critiques of Israel, talking about this, you realize that if you are someone like that who's like, I critiquing Israel, but I'm okay with Venezuela, that says that the entirety of their worldview regarding this is, we don't get anything good from Israel. That it's not worth it to do regime change wars in the Middle East. It is not worth it. We already did that in Iraq, and we still didn't get the oil, or whatever the fuck they think.
Yeah.
So that with them, it's about like, well, if I think it's good for America to own its own hemisphere, then to them.
Yeah, I've seen it put as like the problem they had with Iraq was that we lost. Right? Like that they don't want to be losers. They want to say that they were able to extract XYZ resources and that it like benefited America, or at least American corporations. And that you see that in the emphasis that a lot of these guys are putting on the fact that, we did this in one day. The Venezuela thing was in and out. It took a few hours. No American lost a life. No boots on the ground. Although, like, obviously, boots had to be on the ground to snatch a leader from his bedroom. That becomes a justification. And so I don't know, what do we do with that going forward? Does the left have to be more rigorous in its even rhetorical framing of conservatives being sort of anti-war, anti-interventionist? And like, what do you do with the fact that to date, there are some folks like Thomas Massey who have remained very consistent and very loud and using their platform, and I think very productive ways to draw contrasts with Trump from within the Democratic Party?
This administration tells us that the Maduro regime is made up of narco-terrorists And by escalating toward war, we would predictably create countless refugees. At the same time, this administration has moved to end temporary protected status for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans and deports them back to the very regime it condemns. So which is it? Are we prepared to receive swarms of the 25 million Venezuelans who will likely become refugees and billions in American treasure that will be used to destroy and inevitably rebuild that nation? Do we want a miniature Afghanistan in the Western Hemisphere? If that cost is acceptable to this Congress, then we should vote on it as a voice of the people and in accordance with our Constitution. And yet today, here we aren't even voting on whether to declare war or authorize the use of military force. All we're voting on is a war powers resolution that strengthens the fabric of our republic by reasserting the plain and simple language in the Constitution that Congress must decide questions of war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the answer is in terms of trying to actually create a right-wing anti-imperialist movement. It's difficult because you have to have some consistent principles, I think, in order to do that. Thomas Massie, I think, is a perfect example of someone who's a libertarian who might actually be a libertarian. You know, so many people call themselves libertarians, you know, especially tech fools who are like Peter Thiel. But they, of course, they love the carceral state. They love foreign wars. They love intervention. They love the American military-industrial complex. They're in no way like these like isolationists, you know, anarcho-capitalists in that sense. At the end of the day, they use governments for all of the goodies that they give them. I think that it's hard to teach people to be anti-imperialist when that is not a core part of their worldview already. It's hard to go in through that angle. Do you know what I mean? Like the America First angle wasn't about trying to end American empire. You know, the America First angle was like, it would be good for America to help its own people and stop getting us, you know, doing these foreign wars for elites. But if you tell people they're going to benefit from the foreign wars, then they're going to be like, cool, let's do the war. So I don't know how you square that.
It was about ending the embarrassments of U.S. empire. It's about ending U.S. empire that makes us look bad.
Yeah, to your point, Matt, I saw a clip of Rand Paul criticizing the, you know, Venezuela kidnapping, the Maduro kidnapping, and I went to like it. I mean, likes are private now, so you can just no one's gonna ask me any questions about it. But I went to like it because at least he's like being critical of what happened. And then toward the end, he starts doing all of this throat clearing about how, of course, communism is bad and I don't like communism.
Really, it's a ruse. It's regime change. They wanted him gone for a lot of reasons that I agree with. He was a despicable leader. He impoverished his people. His people lost 30 pounds inadvertently over the last couple of years because of starvation. I wrote in my book, The Case Against Socialism, of a 16-year-old girl who's part of a gang, and her territory is a dumpster behind 4 restaurants where she scavenges for food. I wrote of another young man in Chicago who was in charge of a gang that would hunt pets to eat and hunt rodents to eat and pigeons to eat. That's what the story of socialism is. But everybody's ignoring this. Venezuela went from being a great country, but the decline began in 1970 when they began voting in socialists. This should be a debate between socialism and capitalism, but it's a separate debate on the constitutionality, separate from the debate between socialism and capitalism. But you won't hear from this from the left, and you're not hearing this from anybody on the right other than myself, is we need to try to encourage the Venezuelan people. I say encourage because we don't get to vote. Encourage them to choose capitalism. Encourage them to make contracts with our oil companies. But I think the administration is going to ruin the goodwill in that country if they continue to insist it's our oil and we're in charge and we're running the place.
That's where
Imagine that you're a Venezuelan today holding up an American flag. You love Donald Trump. You love the freedom that you now have. But then you're being told that he owns your oil, that America owns your oil, and American oil companies are going to run Venezuela like we're in the banana republic in the 19th century. That will embitter the people who are currently optimistic and favorable to America. It's exactly the wrong thing to do. To say we're next going into Colombia, You know, there's rumors now that there's going to be an embargo and we're going to surround Cuba and stop all trade with Cuba and starve them until their government changes.
They're already being starved, though, to be fair, by their own government, sadly.
What's that?
They're already being starved by their own government, sadly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't even like performatively, like privately like this right now. And it speaks to your point about the difficulty disentangling. Like he's an ally only so far because he's not going to get to the core of the argument. You don't like all this imperialism. The whole point of this imperialism, because it's following your kind of anti-communist ideological priors to their logical end. Right. And as long as you're still willing to, it's like the criticism that some people, even Zoran, got for contributing to the narrative around Maduro's a dictator. Okay, well, you can say that kind of in a vacuum, but we don't live in a vacuum. And you know that sort of language is going to be used ultimately to justify doing exactly what happened.
That's its only function. That's its only function.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's irrelevant.
Right.
Like if it's true, like this is what you were saying, Matt, in terms of the angle of approach. Like if you accept the anti-imperialist point of view, the basic, and sorry, trigger warning here, Brianna, but the Chomskyan principle that what...
R.I.P. R.I.P.
That as a citizen of a free democratic country, my responsibility begins and ends with what my government does, right? And that therefore my responsibility is to stop my government from doing things that are illegal, immoral, imperial. Well, then whether or not the foreign leader we're talking about is this or that doesn't factor into that, because it's a principle. It doesn't change anything. The only time that you want to bring up, well, of course, this guy's a horrible whatever, in the context of debating another U.S. foreign adventure, is to lend a little bit of credence to, well, but yeah, maybe we have to take him out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good
thing. And there's a harder question here, I think, for the left than even, how much do I gotta give credit to Rand Paul or Candace Owens or whatever, which is so much of the left's own political kind of signpost, the metronome that we go by, is like a more genuine sort of, does this help Americans, right? A very, what does the working class think? How does this benefit the working class? How does this lift up the bottom? But I've noticed, specifically when we're talking about immigration, there comes a point where an internationalist view abuts a kind of a working class America first lefty sort of framing.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know that there's really a willingness for a lot of lefties who are like, okay, we have to deal with the country that we have. We have to win elections. You're not going to be able to sell Americans on the idea that their quality of life is going to have to get worse so that, we can let some immigrant fleeing violence that has been aided and abetted by America, even if I agree that that's true, we can't have open borders. We can't, what am I going to do? Not have an iPhone and we're going to stop? I mean, leftists don't really say this, but the implications of what we say that we believe mean that,
the I
cost of luxury goods are going to go.
Okay.
I have an
solidarity with my global brothers and sisters.
That's right.
I don't know that we've really wrestled with that. And when I've done sort of open borders-esque episodes on my podcast, even trying to talk just through some of these things, a lot of the audience is on board, but there is a kind of discomfort with how you sell it, basically.
Selling open borders, you mean?
Yeah.
It's selling open borders to a more right-wing crowd, or selling open borders
to a leftist crowd.
I feel you,
Bernie
man.
Sanders classically has always been against open borders, even when it was a more sort of like at least intellectually popular thing, because he calls it a right-wing Koch brothers plot to diminish wages for American workers. Right. So how do you get past realistically real-world short-term harms that come to Americans precisely because the luxuries of our life are contingent on the immiseration of people elsewhere?
Yeah.
Look, it's tough when you're trying to sell something like open borders. It's got a bad rap. Matt and I, as two Jews, we've been trying to sell globalism our whole lives, and it's
That's right.
People are resistant, maybe even
like
understandably, to talking about it. But we have to talk about it.
We tell them it's really fun. You get to have multiple arms. You get to hold a globe.
I ask, have you watched the show Pluribus?
I have. We talked about it on the podcast recently. What do you guys think?
Well, so it's a very appealing prospect.
Yeah, I want to join.
So my line on Pluribus is that
hell yeah, let's get into TV.
Now you're talking.
I finished it now. I think the episode I released right before Christmas, there were 2 or 3 episodes left that I hadn't seen, but now it's done and I finished it.
I just finished it too, yeah.
I was very pessimistic on the idea that the show would ever entertain the idea that it's a good thing for everyone to be in the hive mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will acknowledge that this show has maintained more of a possibility that's a good idea than I originally thought when I started watching the series, and especially when they introduced they're eating humans aspect to it. It's like, okay, the cannibals are always the bad people.
Right.
We see where this is going. There's no way that the series is going to end.
I don't know. John Cena gave some pretty good Hasbara about that actually on the next episode.
Yeah.
Wait, John Cena?
Yeah, I remember he plays...
he plays the explainer on the television. Hi, Carol. We're John Cena.
Yeah, we're John Cena, yeah. And he explains why they need to eat people, and the fact is that they can't actually, grow anything, they can't kill any animals, and all that. So he makes a pretty good argument for eating people.
No, I'm pro... Look, anybody who's been to a dinner party with me knows that I am always making pro-cannibalism arguments. my feeling as a meat eater, hot
left literally eats itself. I love it.
Remind me not to attend any pop-up dinners you host in DC. You know?
Okay, look.
Come chew the fat.
It's Saturn devouring his son, but it's just Brianna.
Look, the only meat that's consensual, the only people who can consent are humans. And the only really genuinely ethical consensual meat would be a human who either donated their body to the purpose after they died or had to have a medical reason for an amputation of a otherwise healthy limb.
It's on my medical card. I am donating my body to culinary school when I die.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I remember, I think it was BuzzFeed, but I haven't been able to find this article. I've been talking about it for years. But in the peak BuzzFeed era back in 2014, I remember reading an article about a chef, let's call him Tom, who had to have a leg amputated, and it wasn't diseased or anything. It was let's say it was a trauma, like a blunt force trauma. And he asked if he could keep his leg and then prepare it, Tom, 5 different ways for a group of his friends who consented and knew what they were eating.
Did he make Tom Yum soup? I hope he made Tom Yum soup.
Wow.
Amazing. Okay, and ever since I read that article, I was like, do I have a craving for human flesh? No. If I were friends with Tom, would I be curious about this experiment, like a once in a lifetime opportunity? Yeah, apparently that makes me odd.
Yeah, you exist to make clips for your ops.
You'd be really excited. You're getting that cannibal pass for a day.
I'm just saying.
Listen. No, I no shame at all. I understand. If I've never been put in the position where someone is like, you can have some human meat and it's consensual. I give perfect consent, and you can do it in the right in front of the person whose meat has been donated. I mean, I wouldn't outright reject it immediately. Listen, who knows what I would do?
Matt, what if it were your own meat? Sorry, wait a minute.
I've eaten my own meat all the time. Listen, I've tried to eat my own meat, and it is just, you got to be really flexible to eat your own meat, Brianna.
Never get high on your own supply.
You got to take the ribs out and prepare those first.
You got to take the ribs out, exactly, braise them.
Okay,
but
so that being said, I am obviously not personally put off by the idea that these people are cannibals and that that's a bad thing. But I do think that the fact that the show introduced that conceit that we can't eat fruit or vegetables. We're so rigorous that we can't even eat fruit that's fallen off the tree. We can't even eat. I mean, there's a whole category of ethical eaters that might not. They won't eat vegetables that you have to kill to eat.
Right.
Like you have to pull up a carrot to eat it, but they will eat an apple because that's the whole point of an apple tree growing apples is that it wants you to eat it and spread the seed. Right. It's not hurting the tree to eat the fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that it's they introduce that kind of conceit because they want the audience to think that there's something creepy and wrong about the hive mind. And so, no, I don't trust that the show is going to genuinely entertain what seems obviously true, which is the net good of the world versus the net evil is magnified exponentially when everyone's working in a communal interest.
Well, as a rugged individualist, I don't feel it's that clear cut. And I like the way the show is is flirting with the ambivalence about it, and they said deliberate. And what I was worried, I'm not entirely satisfied with the first season, I have to say, but I think there's a lot of room to go places. I'm just curious. It felt like a prelude. It actually doesn't feel like a full season to me. The pacing is way off.
It's very Vince Gilligan. It's very Vince Gilligan. I mean, it's Vince Gilligan without the entertainingly mundane dialogue scenes between two diametrically opposed personalities. Like, not a lot happens in season 1 of Breaking Bad, I guess, and certainly in Better Call Saul, there's a lot of stretches. But there's always some big ruse or some big con or some advertisement or some dialogue to sink your teeth around. Here, we're just sort of sitting around waiting. But what I meant is that emotionally, they want us to invest in Carol having, because of her longing for close, intimate human contact. I think that's her into connection, is always one-on-one, right, with her wife, and now with what's her name, the pirate woman,
the lady, the
lady,
the concierge,
But it all happens so quickly. And we don't really get to see her, like, the effect, because of the pacing, because it's all stuffed into the last 2 episodes. All of a sudden, then we have this kind of montage of their relationship, the ski thing. Then she realizes, oh, stem cells, you're going to come and get me anyway. Fuck it, atom bomb. Like, it just, to me, was not, it wasn't generously plated. It wasn't well, paced. But in terms of the questions, the philosophical questions, which is the level in which you seem to be engaging at, Brianna, it does make me, like, I resonate with Carol, and I resonate also with the longing for what the hive mind has. And I think if the show is true to its own intentions, and I've heard Vince Gilligan and Reese Horn talk about this in interviews, they will ride the crest of that ambivalence very effectively and keep frustrating anyone who wants a clear, sectarian position on the ontological existential matter.
Yeah.
Matt, you said you liked it.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I really did. I mean, for me, the politics of a show usually don't factor into my quality analysis, because if I am feeling beat over the head, then I'm not enjoying myself usually. So some people feel beat over the head with this idea that this is a show that is anti-communist or something, or it's anti-collective or pro-rugged individualism. I see them sort of making arguments for both, but within a very clear-cut sci-fi framing. And because of that, I'm judging everyone's actions not on this, like, political ideological level, but on, like, an individual level. Like, Carol's the type of person who cannot be happy. So she sees this all happening around her, and everyone's giving her the promise of, but you will be happy. And she can't do that. She's someone who is a miserable person and lives in misery, can't enjoy her own successes, didn't enjoy the times when her wife or partner was alive, and now yearns for that, and she gets to be even more depressed and more miserable. Like, to me, it's like not so political.
Yeah, her misery is her agency, and I can relate to that.
Yes, I think a lot of people can.
I'm exercising my right to be unhappy. I am willfully foregoing the opportunities to heal this or to let go of that. This is how Zionists live. I refuse to heal from what happened to me. Although
I'm built of scar tissue.
That's a different kind of hive mind, I suppose.
Yeah, but in terms of what it is saying, or maybe isn't saying, I have faith that the show will start diving more deeply into whether or not being part of this hive mind is good. I think the way it's set up, if you look at it just from, like, sci-fi level, like, it's bad because if you are not, if you have the memories and whatnot of every single human on Earth, are you still a conscious human being? And so if you lose your consciousness, then you are essentially dead. And I could see not wanting to be dead.
Well, that's the question. And they start getting to that a little bit, if I recall, in one of the last episodes, where Carol is asking her companion, a little bit about what the experience is like. Are you overwhelmed? Do you feel everything all at once? And the answer is kind of like, no, not exactly. Which then raises the question, like, if this is like, let's say, the Borg and Star Trek hive mind consciousness, the implication is that everyone can sort of share knowledge and communicate, like having a computer at your fingertips, but you're still, you also have your own memory, and you can still act individually in your context for the purpose that, it's not. And in the show,
which doesn't seem to be the case in this show.
No, in the show, there's a scene where there's one of the people who was not turned, one of the 14, who has agreed to getting turned. They finally figure out the technology to do so. They have a sort of ceremony. She's a village girl in
the Andes
South
in
America, Peru. It looked like, and they have staged it so that her village life looks very normal. And people are walking around and tending to animals, and it looks normal for her until she transitions. And the second she does, everyone sort of robotically stands up, goes quiet, releases the animals, and walks single file to who knows where to do whatever all of these hive mind people are doing when they're not performing society for the 14 that have been unturned. And it's quiet, it's creepy, it's ominous. And that's what I say when I mean the show is not, I think the show I would trust the show more that it was really entertaining, the idea that being a hive mind is a cool thing, if it was revealing more about what life is like for them when the unturned aren't around, and also wasn't making the choice to depict them so robotically and inhumanely when we do see them.
I don't see it as robotic or inhumane. I see it as they're fully present doing whatever they're doing, and they're fully emotionally engaged with it too. Like, I don't believe that the emotions of the hive mind are an act. I think there's a genuine it's not just a hive mind, it's a hive nervous system, and there's a bodily experience of it too. And there seems to be joy and communion and ecstasy and peace and all kinds of.
Wait a minute. I was with you for a second, but there's joy. Where are we seeing joy and communion and ecstasy?
Some kind of beatific joy, some kind of not a human personality kind of joy that not a who am I talking to? I'm talking to Brianna Joy. But let me tell you about joy, Ms. Gray.
I'm the expert. Yeah.
But some
joy
kind of
is my middle name.
Some kind of exalted plane of being beyond all human cares. And then when they're done with the performance, I don't see harshness on their face. They just go back to the other work they're doing, which is serving the same goal.
No, it's not harshness, but it's in it feels empty. So let me ask you these questions. And again, maybe this is all fodder for the second season.
Yeah.
But okay, the companion who is with our protagonist, she seems to be, the protagonist seems to, as much as she wants everyone to be individual again, she seems to be willing to suspend her disbelief. She pretends, knowing that this person is a hive mind person, pretends that they are an individual who loves her and that she's in a kind of relationship with her.
Yes.
And on some level, that's an acknowledgement that the hive mind can at least perform individuality and has value to her as an individual, at least in the context of her companion. And she is very disdainful of one of the others that's left behind, a man who chooses to spend his time surrounded by beautiful women and being in Vegas and eating luxury food and having a very hedonistic lifestyle. She's very disdainful of the idea that he is exploiting women's bodies, and that's how he's using his power as one of the left behind.
Right.
And yet she's doing the same thing with her companion. She's just tricking herself into believing that it's, it's
which is what I was saying I wanted more of, because it happens in such an accelerated way. We don't get to dive into the implications of that. Like, what is it to willfully pretend that my lover is with me for me personally, that it's special, that in fact she loves me, equal to everybody on earth, but a little bit extra too. And what does it take? Because that's also relatable. How many of us in relationships have found ourselves looking through wishful eyes at the person that we want to feel super close to, right? There was so much in that could have been rich if they'd taken their time with it.
I mean, so when you're watching Carol go through that phase where she is, God, I wish we could all remember the character's name. Zosha. Where she is
Zosha, who strangely started out the show in Turkey.
I assume, I think she's says later that she's from Poland or some shit.
Yeah.
And then, whatever. She was started out in Turkey. She was building shit. Who the fuck knows? Where are we gonna go? We'll let the nerds figure that out. That's not us. But I felt like that entire sequence of a few episodes is her abandoning this principle that obviously the guy from Paraguay or Uruguay, one of the guys, that guy is obviously representing sort of the full mode that she used to be at, the full like individual mode. I'm not going to take anything from any one of these fuckers. They are not human. They have stolen these bodies. They have stolen these cars. I will pay for everything. He's kind of taking that to the extreme, right? So he's like paying for a hospital bill that he doesn't have to, yada, yada, yada. And she sort of had that at the beginning. And at some point she just gets so lonely that she just kind of says, fuck it. So for me, to me, it existed only for this great punchline, which is finding out that Zosha is saying I now instead of we because she wanted it. Like, you can trick yourself into thinking that this is something that it isn't. But as soon as Zosha reveals that, yes, we are going to change you, whether you like it or not, the punchline of her taking a helicopter and getting an atom bomb hits super hard. For me, that was the greatest, the funniest ending. And it might have been a 3-episode setup, but it was very funny to me.
Yeah. You guys are making me very excited for season 2 as we're talking through this.
I'm somewhere in between the two of you, to be clear.
Yeah, my only thought would be, the only reason I brought up the relationship with Zsuzsa was mainly to say, the show doesn't contemplate, like, okay, if we were to be all in a hive mind, is pleasure no longer relevant to us? In the show. It's not just that the hive mind says, we all have a mutual we should all be in agreement not to kill each other because we all feel the pain and everything. But would there not be a bunch of orgiastic behavior? Would there not be people trying to eat delicious things because it feels good? When I call them robotic, it's because while it makes sense why no one would want to cause each other pain, it also doesn't allow for the pleasure-seeking aspect of the human experience.
Right.
And to have Zsuzsa engaging in that with Carol and their beautiful ski resorts and like falling in love and doing all of this stuff, but then to have all the Peruvians just get up and walk away like automatons after they turn this girl to go who knows where to do who knows what.
When you read accounts,
that's the part of me that doesn't feel like the show is allowing for the fullness of the human experience as part of the hive mind.
I see that. I mean, it reminds me of when I've read accounts of spiritual enlightenment. You know, you'll hear Buddhist masters say things like, "It's not like I lose my ego. I still have it. I just hold it completely differently. It doesn't run me. I can pick it up. I can put it down. I can enjoy the beer. I can taste it. I can be aware that the experience is fleeting. I am not identified with my experience." And I think they're sort of playing with that. And I also think there's a reason you don't know the hive mind's relationship to carnal pleasures and like the seeking of gratification, because the show has played their life very, very close to the vest. It's telling it. The show has chosen not to take the camera around in an equal opportunity way and show us this whole new world.
And I imagine it will.
And it will. It's withholding that in ways that are very frustrating for a lot of viewers, including me. The one time they did it was when Carol asked to see where they sleep. And Zosha takes her to a
gym.
Exactly.
High school gym.
Right.
Yeah.
And she gets to see, and that was a window into something that if the show wants us to stay invested, we're gonna have to know. We're gonna have to know more about that. And and hopefully, I trust that. I mean, having watched Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, Gilligan knows a little something about world expansion. Zooming out to show bigger and bigger things and withholding things, or saying, I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out next season and it'll feel like it was always true.
Yeah,
I think that's possible here. I'm not convinced, but
it's going to be interesting. Based on my experience of humanity over the last 40 years, I am extremely skeptical that in the season finale of the show, Carol's going to say, In the same way that she was like, I was so lonely. I want to be with you, Joja, rather than be all by myself and accept the gifts of the hive. I'm so skeptical that she's going to say, you know what, you're right. I want to be in the hive mind. And then we're going to like fade to black.
But what does it mean to you if she doesn't say that?
Yeah,
she should say that. That's the clear answer.
No, but I think that we don't live in a world where we don't live in a country, specifically America, where it could ever be the right answer to join a hive mind. I think that the show will create reasons why the hive mind is wrong in order to justify Carol's choice not to belong and to work toward freeing everybody else.
It might, but I think that if we're comparing the alien virus that makes humans into a hive mind to, like, I don't know, Marxism or something, or like communism, like, I think we might be, missing the forest.
I don't think
the
it's
trees.
a political show fundamentally.
To me,
it's about individual consciousness versus God consciousness.
Listen, there is some political aspect to it, but I am not yet convinced it is fundamentally anti-communist. But mostly because I'm like the idea that communism is when an alien virus. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't. This form of hive mind. Hive minds are not necessarily a left wing v right wing political statement.
No.
And they work really well for bees. They work extremely well for bees.
Well, fascism can be a hive mind. Totalitarianism can be a hive mind. That's kind of.
It's about a premise that says we've literally solved all of the world's evils.
Right.
0 people are getting murdered. 0 people are getting raped. 0 people are they have to put the hunger thing as an issue, but nobody has to go hungry.
Right.
And yet it's sinister.
Right.
Like that. And to me, when we live in a world where someone like Elon Musk says, "Oh, somebody should solve world hunger." If this were to happen, what is he made some promise about solving world hunger that would only take, what the equivalent of what $1,000 would be to him.
Right.
And he just like chooses not to do it every year, know. And we all accept it, and we accept all of the inequities we talk about on our shows all the time. Because it's just like the way it is. And the whole limit to the liberal imagination that we all butt up against all the time is that like, well, this is the best we can do. Capitalism is the best, is the worst system except for every other system. All of this kind of crap. And this show, that fundamental mentality that like, that Carol's immediate reaction, if someone came up to me and was like, everyone you know is in a hive mind, it's a little weird, I understand, but know that there is 0 suffering happening in the world right now. It is only an extreme sort of Western narcissism that is that your first instinct is, oh, that sounds horrible.
Right. You just watched your wife die horribly. Right. And your entire life has been. I don't think so.
Well, even beyond that, let's say she hadn't. Let's say she hadn't. The way in which the show frames it, like for let's say the Peruvian guy or Paraguayan guy. He didn't necessarily have anyone die. We don't know if he had anyone die, but he is also looking at this from that perspective. All he knows is he
thinks his mom's a bitch.
Yeah, all he knows is he hates his mom, and now his mom's nice. So I see what you're saying about it. I guess I just am not yet convinced that this is a statement about everyone pulling together and like the limits of like the liberal mind, I guess.
No, I don't think it is a statement of that. I don't think the showrunners have any intention of playing this. I'm just saying, like, I think that I will credit them for even having the ambivalence about whether being the hive mind is good that we've had so far. But I'm just saying the nature of American TV.
Yes.
And that says something about the deeper nature of our psyche is that I just can't imagine this show ending any other way than by saying the Borg are bad.
I think it's going to do. I don't think it's going to be. I can't imagine it ending that way personally, and I think the reason is because that feels too hackneyed. Like not even on a political level. I literally think they're just going to be like.
Why did they make it? Why did they introduce this? What's going to be the driving thread of the next season? It has to be. Why did they introduce this idea that everyone's going to starve to death?
Mm-hmm. Why did
because
they
the hive mind, everyone's they've created this, right? Daniel, you alluded to the fact that they have her wife die when the transition happens. Like
Right.
for those who haven't watched, like let's say 5-10% of the whole population ends up dying. Maybe it's even less
Right.
than that, 1%.
Oh.
And her wife is one of them.
Yeah.
And so you introduce that as, of course she's upset, but that's a choice. That's a writer's choice, right? To make us feel like it's legitimate for her to be having this negative.
Well, because also the entire first, you got to look at genre. The entire first episode was literally a horror movie, and none of the rest of the show is. It's a little mini contained.
Everyone literally has a seizure, and then they wake up like zombies, and they go, "Hi, Carol." Like that's scary.
What you're saying, the American mindset, American TV. The show creators know that, and they're introducing the show as if, and then there's this bait and switch of, wait a minute, we're in this ambivalent.
Yeah, we'll see.
What the show is,
We'll
think,
see, Daniel.
Look,
because
Severance to me is in this new tradition building of shows that seem to be about like socio-political commentary, but are really getting at least as much at something existential and even spiritual. And what and around consciousness and individual consciousness.
Commentary?
And what accommodations would you make in order to end your suffering as a human being?
Right.
It's both, but you don't think that Severance isn't about, you're going to tell me Severance isn't about politics either?
No,
it's about it. But what it is it's like the best science fiction. It's drawing on similarities that we can instantly recognize from our world,
right?
Putting them in a slightly altered reality. I'm reading The Dispossessed right now by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is very similarly about two societies closely linked. One is anarchist, one is proprietarian or capitalist. They don't talk to each other, and then there's this crossover that happens. The membrane is crossed by one member, and what happens? Yes, that book is much more about anarchism, communism, and capitalism than these shows are. But at the same time, it's asking, I think, some more personal human questions.
Let me put it this way, and then I'll leave it alone. There is a world where there would be a choice to explore whether or not, in a more pure way, individuality has its own distinct value that's worth saving, even at the cost of public harm, social ills, etc.
Right.
Or whether or not it's worth it to gamble it away, or if it's actually better on both counts to be part of a hive mind. But by introducing the idea that you might have a mass die-off of the entire population, they undermine the conceit, one of the biggest draws of being a part of the mass consciousness, which is that we don't have public harms anymore. The show runners, the writers,
were made
a choice to throw a huge monkey wrench into what could have been a philosophical conversation about, does Carol want to be a part of the hive mind, by insisting that the hive mind's existence means mass deaths because they can't find any food. Because they're so dumb. They're so dumb.
I think that
that they're going to let themselves die out.
They're introducing a ticking clock, is what. Like, to me, they're introducing essentially a countdown. It's a conflict. It's something that they're going to have to figure out in season 2. That's kind of how I look at that, because I do think if a mass die-off is the issue, they are going to have to figure out a way to solve it, and that's kind of how
they're going to have to solve it by unhive minding themselves.
But maybe they're also doing the inverse, Brianna. Like there's this. They present it as the most horrible thing, because that is the American way of looking at it. That is the Western individual losing myself, losing my biography, my history, my likes, my dislikes, my fetishes, my picadillos, my bugaboos, all of the things that make me particularly me. Oh,
not my picadillos.
Not my picadillos. I don't know where the fuck that came from. I think the CBD gummy just hit. I've got some nerve pain, and I dosed myself before the show. But so it's horrible, and we watch the horror unfold, and we are Carol. And then we learn that Carol's a little bit more extra than we are, but we still know what it is to be that person, right? Will the hive mind be able to make the case that it was all worth it? And you got to admit, they've gone some of the way there in the 9 episodes they've had. It's gotten, the pitch at least has some heft to it, and you feel like there's a real question to be answered. And Carol's now in between it, as opposed to Mr. Self-Reliant, who has his first principles and has stood on them since the top of the show. So far.
We'll see if in season 2 we get a real, instead of her having these weird terse arguments with the Indian lady who is the son, right?
Yeah.
Instead of her arguing with her all the time, maybe they'll have a conversation where it's like, hey, have you really not considered how much less pain there is in the world, Carol? They could have written a conversation like that in season 1. They didn't. Maybe it'll happen in season 2.
The absence of meaningful conversations is one of the biggest flaws of the season. And they could have used the limited resources of the world they created. They could have mined it for more in terms of human contact, interaction. The other survivors are caricatures. They're just kind of like, they don't like the woman in the Andes.
They're a hive mind in and of themselves, which is very annoying to watch, where that's
irritating.
Yeah, they are all not understanding there's something happening beyond what's right in front of them. So that I didn't like as well. But I do think that, like, if you look at the hive mind as less a bunch of people but one character, and then you look at the other survivors as the other characters of the show, I think the reactions of the other survivors, or all of the left behind, are kind of going to be driving more of the political conversation than is the hive mind doing a good job of being a hive mind. Because I think that the limitations there are, practical. Like, you are writing this hive mind virus with these flaws in it, like, because we can't do any harm, we also are going to end up starving. That, to me, is not a political statement about anything. That is just an interesting framework to create this hive mind.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Around it. It's the reaction of the person, I think he's from Eritrea, who is like, this is a gift. This is life's cheat code. I'm going to fuck all these women. It's the woman, I think the Peruvian woman, who wants to be with her family. It's Carol, and it's the Paraguayan guy who like, that's where I think the politics may enter into it more so than the hive mind. Is like, I think the hive mind is just a means to get into a bunch of different types of stories, both emotional and political.
Well, it's also political to the extent that the hive mind's food and their sort of food policy is very
vegan, yes.
is very it's very RFK coded though too.
It's there's some other issues. I mean, like, you could complicate that. You could make the hive mind if you wanted to make them sinister, I think a logical thing that would probably happen if all of our minds were linked is to say, we're going to eat food. We're going to kill some plants. We're going to decide that human beings, if we all got together, because we know this because we live in a society. Humans have already established that we think human lives are more important than other people's lives, other creatures' lives. And the idea that just because we all banded together, we would change our mind on that seems a little far-fetched to me. And I do not believe we would be vegetarian, much less like whatever the kind of, I don't know what you call it, fruitarian or whatever, where you don't eat anything at all.
Okay, but so when the hive mind does, for example, the first time you see, let's say in season 2, them pick an ear of corn and boil it, that is going to be a scary moment, because you realize that principle of they are not allowed to harm anything has now somehow been changed. They've changed that part of their programming. So what then we're going to run into an issue where, oh shit, this means they can kill Carol.
Yeah, and they should have frankly killed Carol the first time she had a tantrum, and consequently killed like millions of people worldwide. They should have offed her at that. Like, that is the utilitarian argument.
Oh, no.
Like, that's what should have happened.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love how pro hive mind, pro cannibal you are. This is
Carol is going to become the new Karen. You're going to popularize Carol as the new slur for entitled, individualistic white women or anyone who doesn't want to join the hive mind that killed their spouse. Get over it. Sign up for the better
future. Eat the human meat. You're being a real Carol. I brought this to a potluck.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Look, you guys have been great. I'm very patient. Hey, did we ever get that Tony Dokoupil clip?
No, I might have been tripping. I was up in the middle of the night with all this fucking nerve pain. But I was scrolling. But I'm pretty sure I saw it. He was like, wow, what a first shift, huh? That was really something.
Yeah. I mean,
if we find it later, we'll splice it in.
I hope I'll be vindicated.
Yeah. I hope I hope that the audience didn't immediately get mad that we started talking about TV. They don't get mad about that, right?
No, I don't think so. I think, frankly, I mean, I've been talking recently about how I would like a release valve, how I miss having opportunities to talk about other aspects of my personality. I miss creative pursuits. And I do think while there is always going to be some cohort that, wants an encyclopedic rundown of the history of a region or something,
right.
That there's a lot of that out on the internet by people who are frankly much more informed and able to do that than I am. And that people really liked a recent philosophical conversation about pluribus in the context of transhumanism and extinctionism and the right-wing Silicon Valley guys, because I think that sort of analysis is frankly where I excel more than just like, let me tell you the history of Venezuela.
Well, and your episode with Van about One Battle After Another, which I listened to right after I saw One Bad Bitch After Another, was great. And I'm like, this is it clearly at least as much in this show's DNA as the stuff that you might be more quickly thought of, for.
I'd like to think so. That's why I got a Star Trek book over my shoulder, I guess. And I hope to do a lot more of this in the future. And I appreciate both of you gentlemen being game.
Yeah, of course. I will say that it is, as someone who has both a politics podcast and a TV rewatch podcast, it is nice to not talk about, talk about a TV show is actually really nice. Have you seen Mad Men?
Yes, I saw it, when it was on.
You should rewatch it and come on, Matt. Pod Yourself a Gun, a rewatch
I'd love
podcast.
To.
Yeah. That's
I'd love
perfect
to.
guest.
My favorite podcast was the West Wing thing, and I had not seen the West Wing at all. I was asked on when they were in like season 3, and because I am a teacher's pet, I binge watched all 3 seasons in advance of my own episodes, so I knew it was happening. And then I was locked in and just was watching along.
Wow.
And then they had me on, I think, 3 or 4 times. I think it was maybe the most recurring guest on the West Wing thing.
Nice.
And I watched the whole series because of I think it was COVID times too. So
we did a rewatch episodes of our show recently. I wasn't on it, but Matt and the guests rewatched 2 episodes having to do directly with Gaza.
With Gaza, yeah.
Just perfect little slices of how we got here.
Yes, the liberal Zionism in that show is fantastic. But yeah, that was a Bad Hasbara episode.
The angry liberal Zionism.
I gotta go back and watch
the lecturing
that. That's my favorite
liberal Zionism. The liberal Zionism that is crawling out of its skin to say to the idiot woman who's talking about human rights next to it to explain it to her.
Right, exactly.
How do I not remember this?
That's the Sorkinism of always getting exasperated at these female twits.
These stupid women. Yeah. I did a very long Twitter thread with all of my reactions as I was watching. So I have to go back through and see. I mean, the search function's blown on Twitter, but to see if I can find, because I know that I would have seen it and said something about it at the time. But that is truly my favorite kind of content, is talking about the politics in our pop culture. So you've really thrilled me today.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing what you do over at Bad Hasbara. I had a couple of other clips. Did you see the guy, General Jack Keane, who accidentally said the implications here are really bad for Israel. Venezuela are really great for Israel.
The implications here are really great for the Venezuelan people. 27.
If people aren't already listening to Bad Hasbara, they absolutely should be.
That's a hive mind they should be electing to join.
That's right. It's a great hive mind. And, do I sometimes yell at the hive mind to stay in line? Of course I do. But that doesn't mean they're not enjoying the slop that I serve them.
But people don't understand the parasocial relationship goes both ways. And if people are allowed to be upset with us and feel like they know us and then be angry when we err in their eyes, then the same is true of us and them. And occasionally I'm allowed to read through my comment sections and be like, I don't.
That's right. And just because we have a necessary relationship with our listeners, which we do, it is a whole relationship. We're only speaking right now because of the people listening. This is not like we're you know what I'm saying? Like, this is an interactive, dynamic thing that's going on. And we're not in the customer service game.
That's right.
There are no promises made about what the product will. We're just,
you will not have to take a survey.
We're fucking around and you're finding out.
That's right. Exactly. And we're all enjoying ourselves, Eat the slop, don't eat the slop. Don't look at me. I'm just a poor farmer.
Well, Farmer Dan and Farmer Matt, where can people find Bad Hasbara and your other work on the internet and beyond?
You can find it on YouTube. Bad Hasbara is on YouTube. It's the world's most moral podcast. We just hit 50,000 subscribers, which is
well done.
Is pretty good for us. And then we are on all the podcast apps. You can just listen to it. You don't have to look at us on wherever you get your podcasts. And
and please do. People should know that there's musical talent here. I was completely blown away by the parody song that you guys close a live show with.
Love hates hate lifts us up where we belong. Yeah.
I'm also a secretly musical theater girly and love all that sort of thing. So it's all of my interests converged into one.
There's also me nerding out over my records for a few minutes.
That's right.
At the top of every episode. We're always bringing, and there's Ghostbusters. There's a huge array of cinematic references through every kind of film for every person. There's Glengarry Glen Ross. There's Ghostbusters. There's Fargo. It's just such a
wide net. Yeah. There's Fiddler on the Roof.
That's true. Actually, there's Fiddler on the Roof.
There's Fiddler. But yeah, it's a fun podcast. We tried our best to add some levity to what is essentially an incredibly dark subject.
The most unleavened bread in the world.
The most unleavened. We're
trying to leaven it just a little bit.
It's a matzah ass subject that we're trying to turn into brioche. But it is. It's fun. You should listen to it. It is a comedy podcast, but sometimes we say something that's smart. Daniel says a smart thing.
Well, maybe sometimes, but the thing that makes the show really smart and erudite and really levels it up, classes up the joint, is our guests. People.
That's right.
I mean, I'm truly, I gotta say, like, that's the thing I'm proudest of on the show is who comes on and who has a good time and who, you've been on, Brianna, like you said, and at the live show, and it was fucking wonderful. We had Rashid Khalidi, who was not expecting to laugh and was a little, shocked that he could, and then he let his hair down and he told us afterwards, like, that was so much fun. I never get to do that.
Yeah.
And then we have all kinds of actual comedians, political comedians like Bassem Youssef, and then just like Troy
regular
Ball, guys
dudes that I know
that Matt knows from the industry.
That's right. Yeah, it's a fun time, and we do an extra episode every week on Patreon. You can join that at patreon.com/Bad Hasbara. Brianna, truly, you should come on the Mad Men podcast. It is a fun show to talk about because it is. Daniel did it. We often have like a lot of people who I know from the political sphere on these shows. So we're doing.
I really would
Man.
love to. I've been thinking about doing a rewatch because it seems like everyone's rewatching Mad Men right now.
It came out on HBO. That's why. So everyone started. It was not available for streaming on anywhere except for I think like AMC Plus forever. And we started the podcast before it was on HBO, and I was like, we got a lot of emails who said, I followed you through The Sopranos. I followed you through The Wire. I don't know where to watch this, and I'm not paying for AMC Plus. But now it's on HBO, so you can.
Amazing.
I recently rewatched it through maybe season 3 or 4, at which point I really lost interest, which is exactly what happened the first time I watched it, although I did watch it through to the end. But I just, at a certain point after the company changed, keep track of
all of his affairs and how many wives he has.
Yeah, and how many bookings they need to keep the doors open, and then when the Zoo wife, the allegedly, is she supposed to be French or French Canadian?
Quebecois, yeah.
She's Quebecois, yeah. Yeah, she is. But her parents are not. That pissed me off. And the scene when they have dinner with the parents, this is why I hate this show. They're total French. Ugh. But the show it does not have my heart the way The Wire does. But
right, yeah.
Well,
but
I guess I have to confess I haven't seen The Wire.
You idiot! No, I'm sorry. That was very loud. The Wire.
I started because everyone says it's great, and I started at some point in the last couple of years trying to watch it. I had watched Sopranos. I'd never seen Sopranos. I watched that maybe 2 years ago.
5 episodes, Brianna. First season, I promise you,
it was
somewhere between episode 5 and episode 6, something will click. You may not love it, but the show kicks into a gear where you get on board its very particular kind of velocity.
Yes.
I'll try again. I like the guy from The Affair. What's his name? The main
Dominic
guy, the
West.
main white guy.
Dominic West.
Dominic West.
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of him.
Yeah, he's
but
great.
it wasn't.
When you get to season 2, you will see class dealt with in a way that you have never seen on American television, and you have been hungering for. If I know you, you'll also see not that but there's many things to recommend it. Number one, there never has been, and there never will be again, such a deep trove across 5 seasons of Black characters who are actual human beings, played by 40, 50, 60 different amazing actors who each get to do their thing in small and
some of which are
ways.
local castings from Baltimore itself,
Baltimore
from,
accents
from
I've
from the Bronx.
I've heard the
too.
arguments. In fact, there was a big
Heard the
racial, everyone says the same. I mean, there was a big racial brouhaha.
Join the hive mind, Brianna. This is where show and prove, okay? You talk a good hive mind game. You're like, I'd sign up.
Yeah,
but here, it's been 20 years. People have been saying you have to watch the Wire. And Carol is holding out.
Now. I will say that I have a little bit of resentment about The Wire because there was a racial incident on campus when I was a law student. And I remember seeing Professor Ogletree at an event, who's one of our most respected Black professors on campus, and asking him about how the student who had done this thing was like, what he thought of it and how it was going to be dealt with. And he looked at me gravely, so seriously, and what he says to me is, "You know what, Brianna? You know what you got to do?
No.
So you got to take my class on The Wire."
Oh, fuck off. Of course that's going to turn you off.
That's okay. So you have some trauma surrounding this series.
That's the
trauma.
Yeah. But it's the thing about infinite jest too.
Yeah, exactly.
In the hands of the wrong people, and there are many such wrong people, it becomes a weapon of mundanity and just kind of mind-numbing, like mediocrity, discourse, whatever. Yeah. And apparently a real shitification of the dating scene to hear women tell it. That doesn't mean Infinite Jest isn't a really amazing thing that's worth reading. I've never finished it, but I always enjoy how far I get.
Doesn't really work on audiobook because of the footnotes.
Oh God, no! And the footnotes to the footnotes.
They're long.
Come on.
What?
Come on. I'm not. No. I'm not.
Are you anti-audiobook? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, what if the footnotes were kind of tongue-in-cheek and self-aware and part of the storytelling?
I mean, I'd have to see, before I wrote off the whole category. But I, as someone who in the new year is really committing to writing her novel, and I'm reading a lot as part of my motivation. I feel very strongly that reading should be fun. I think that sometimes people confuse complexity for difficulty, and they make things, obscure and difficult to understand and to digest, as though it makes it more meaningful.
Sure.
And I think, in particular, fiction should be fun. Not like LOL, everything doesn't have to be like a romantic comedy, but it should be enjoyable and consumable.
Well, Brianna, as the Tom Tom Club said, what do you consider fun?
Oh, okay.
Because Infinite Jest, the footnotes, they might as well be called fun notes.
Yeah, it's kind of
they're a slog, but it's a huge joke almost.
It's a part of a bit. It's a bit. Yeah.
As an ADHDer, even, in a nonfiction book, the taking me out of it by having to flip and look somewhere else and then re-find my spot on the page is already a little bit of a non-starter.
But it's the bottom
I gotta
of the page.
say, I'm not being sold.
They're not endnotes.
Yeah, okay. But still, you do. But then you have to go back. You do have to go back.
Oh no, shit! I got 2 guys yelling at a woman to read Infinite Jest. That's what I was just saying. It happened.
First, you name-splain to me.
Yeah, and also two white people telling a Black woman to watch The Wire. Oh no!
Let me cut you guys off before you dig your hole even deeper. Thanks to you both. You have a great show. I really appreciate you joining us today on Bad Faith. Listeners, you can get an extra episode of Bad Faith every week at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. As always, take care of yourselves and remember to keep the faith. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Just a reminder that this is a podcast. You can catch an extra premium episode every Monday for $5 a month at patreon.com/badfaithpodcast. That's patreon.com/badfaithpodcast for $5 a month, an extra episode every week. Additionally, please do consider liking this video, subscribing to this channel. It helps us out. It helps independent media beat the algorithm. We appreciate you. And as always, keep the faith.